we have only been told that we have reached this far in the field of teleportation, but I do believe that we have it here already now, and we have had it for a long time.
But the craft, the ability to get from, is the Anunnaki, where they come from, Nibiru, and then fly all the way through our solar system, and land on Mars, and then come to this planet is amazing.
I went to the Temple of Abydos, where those glyphs are actually located, up in the ceiling. If you go on my Facebook page, you can see that me standing up, pointing up. Well, the first thought comes to my mind is anti-gravity, and how the Anunnaki utilized it to construct a lot of these temples, these megalithic structures, the pyramid structures, the obelisk.
Welcome to the Never-Ending Journey, episode 2. We will talk about ancient technology. What kind of technology did our ancient ancestors have? Who created or invented anti-gravity? Who built the pyramids? The questions are many, and we can of course not answer all of them, but we can answer a few of them and give an answer that we believe could be the truth to what went on in the past. Welcome on board on the Never-Ending Journey, together with Billy Carson, William Whitecrow. I'm your host, Thomas Mikey. Please enjoy the next 40 minutes together with us on this journey. Welcome back to the Never-Ending Journey. This is episode 2, and we have Billy Carson with us, we have William Whitecrow with us, and myself, Thomas Mikey. I'm your host, and we are talking about ancient technology, ancient history, and Anunnaki. But I would like to start up with ancient technology, because that's some of that have fascinated me the most. And I've seen some of the cylinder seals depicting ancient technology and depicting how the so-called Anunnaki God was teaching humankind the technology that they had back then. I would like to start up with William today. William, if I say ancient technology, what's the first things that comes to mind on you?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is their ability to fly, get here, move things, mining. We do this today with our technology, but it seems in their architecture too. That's a very high technology that they had when they were building things. So precise they couldn't slide a piece of paper in between stones and everything. Mm-hmm. This is seen in South America and Africa. I mean, everywhere. So the technologies to do stuff like that, we really don't even have today to do it with that precision. But the craft, the ability to get from, is the Anunnaki, where they come from, Nibiru, and then fly all the way through our solar system, and land on Mars, and then come to this planet is amazing. And it talks about in the ancient scriptures rockets, and there's us knowing now, what they're describing, because we have that technology. Also the genetics that they have, that's a highly advanced technology to turn around basically what they say create us today. And that's amazing. It just wasn't, okay, these beings are here, let's enslave them. No, they created something. Used the technology of genetic engineering, their architecture. They even made, which is very interesting, on Nibiru, their planet, earth-moving equipment and other rockets and stuff and equipment to be used on Earth. And as soon as I thought about the architecture, I went to Peru in my mind. The Nazca plains, because it talks about them leaving Africa and going across the ocean at one time, and boy, a light just came on right away there. So, and if you look at some of the Nazca plains, you can see how the mountains are literally shaved off. So that makes sense. They're talking in this historical aspect, and then you get to see the effects yourself. That's pretty impressive, and this is thousands of years before we were supposed to have any technology whatsoever. And another technology that I really amazed me was their astronomical, all their buildings, the way they were set, things of this nature. The Sumerian texts talk a lot about it. Billy knows a lot more about the anti-gravity aspect of it here. You know, he went in depth on studying that. I'm writing a book and using this stuff right now too. But the anti-gravity technology that they have, I still say have, because I believe that part of them are still here and part of them are out there still, you know, is unbelievable. It's something that literally works, especially when you have atmospheres and everything, stuff like wind. You have a balloon and you blow on it. Well, if you take a certain energy and you increase it, whatever, let's say if the Earth is negative and the sky is positive, and you increase your negativity here, the light forces repel one another. So them being able to have that technology back then was pretty amazing. I think Billy, we can tell you more about that right now.
We will get back to the anti-gravity with Billy later. You talked about the mountaintop that looks like they were cut off, removed. Yeah. What kind of technology would it take to remove a top of a mountain? We are talking about tons and cubic miles of material that has to be removed. What would be your guess to how they did it?
Oh my goodness, you know, and that's a really good question there, Thomas, because I've studied that. You know, I've even looked at the pictures and talked to people that's been there, because when you shave a mountaintop off, you know, the way we do it, you're going to find residual material off the sides of the hills. There's no residual material. So where could have they taken this? You know, I'm still searching for the areas where they would take the soil and do it. Maybe they filled in some of the other little canyons that were there. I don't know. You know, but the technology, we had a conversation, a few of us last night about that, as a matter of fact. And we were talking about a technology that they could not really scrape, but they can aim in an area and vaporize, in a sense. You know, we have lasers and this and that. And that would cause a lot of you know, the stuff going up in the air, really, and there would be more residual. So wherever they took this soil, it is not in the area there. That would take some massive earth-moving equipment. And I'm talking massive. You know, something that could take a quarter mile at a time, scraping, you know, and doing things like this. And we don't see the tire tracks or signs of it, but we do see the landing zones. We do see the different symbols, what could represent different, like we have in the military. This is Company A, and their symbol is the falcon, and this is Company B, and theirs is the cougar. You know, if you look on the Nazca plains, this is kind of what you see, a spider, you know, and the monkey, and all different types of stuff. So I think that earth-moving equipment had to be massive, way unlike anything we have right now. Or they were able to turn around and take a large area and vaporize, you know, an entire mountaintop somehow. So that's very advanced technology. I haven't found that in those texts yet, but just when they said that they came across across the ocean, that's the Americas, you know, during that time. So Nazca plane popped in. So yeah, I think they made the Nazca plains myself, and made landing fields for what operations are going to take place over there. And the Incan and Mayans talk about that.
Do you think that the way they did it was from ground, they worked from the ground, or do you think they worked from the air? Or did they have the technologies on board on ships, or did they actually bring the technology down to the ground like we do today? We have excavators on the ground removing dirt and stuff like that. How do you think they operated?
Oh, they were earth-moving machinery. I think they were on the ground too, and I think there was some from the air. That makes sense. You take an area off, you load it, you fly it somewhere. If they had the technology to take the gold that they were harvesting in their craft and get it into orbit, you know, we know how fast you have to go, 17,500 miles an hour just to break orbit. You know, now imagine the tonnage of gold that they would have to take up to orbit and then take it to Mars for refining, you know, and everything else. So I think a lot of the technology was on the ground because the texts say so. You know, it said that they made earth-moving equipment. but I think there was some in the air too. I think there was that was a two-stage operation. But I keep going back to my feeling is they had the technology to literally just take something and make it dissipate, you know. And this is what they did in some cases there. So yeah, you answered that question. Yeah, they definitely had it on the ground because the texts talk about it. And they transported them here to do the work.
Okay, thank you, William. Billy, ancient technology, what's the first thought that's coming to your mind?
Well, the first thought comes to my mind is anti-gravity and how the Anunnaki utilized it to construct a lot of these temples, these megalithic structures, the pyramid structures, the obelisks, you know, and put them into place. Because it's one thing to construct these stone structures, like an obelisk, you know, that weighs 500,000 tons, but it's another thing to actually get it to a location and actually set it to where it doesn't even fall over. You know, so it's an amazing technology that they had back then. When I went to Egypt in May of 2014, I went to an area where they had an unfinished obelisk that was super massive. It was one giant piece. Everybody's seen it on TV if you watch Ancient Aliens or whatever. This thing is super massive. It's just sitting in the ground. And I looked like an ant next to this obelisk. And I turned to the person who led us into that area, and I said, what do you think, how do you think they were going to move this? And he said to me, the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, that they would redirect the Nile into this area, and then they would back a boat up in here, and then they would put this on a boat and take it down the Nile. Impossible. First of all, you would need a cruise ship the size of Texas, okay, to keep this thing from sinking. You need technology, first of all, to get it out of that hole, out of that quarry hole that it was in, and get it up into the boat. It was perfectly shaped in that hole. I mean, so whatever tool, whether it's a laser beam or, like you say, whatever they used, it's amazing because this thing is super massive, laying in that hole, and there's only one way to get it out. You have to use anti-gravity. And how do you do that? Well, there's a Sumerian cylinder seal, which if you go to marsmoonspace.com, and you can look it up in previous conversations that myself and Thomas have had. I don't remember the exact number of the seal right now, but it depicts an Anunnaki god seated, and he's seated in a chair. I'm sure that Thomas will probably superimpose this.
Yes.
He's seated in, really what he's seated in is actually, he's seated on top of a piece of equipment that actually acts as a magnetic device, and in his hand he's got. I'll just tell you right now what he's got in his hand. I'm going to pull it up on this other screen here real quick. He's got a device in his hand, and that device that he has in his hand is actually like a field amplifier, and he's holding it. And above him, there is a arm that's coming up and over and above, and at the bottom of that arm, there's a device there. Now, this device is identical almost to the one that Edward Leedskalnin in Florida, down in Miami, used at the Coral Castle. It's still sitting there till this very day. This tower that he used, and at the bottom, there's pictures of this device. Now, the device itself has disappeared, but the photos of the actual device is there. The arm is still there, and the magnetic gears are still there. The two magnets that actually gear and crank around each other are still there at the actual museum. It's a museum now. Well, this particular device generated a frequency, and right underneath the arm, you see this disc. And some people thought that there was actually a real disc that was sitting there, but this is actually not a dish or a plate or a disc that has this image drawn on it. This is a frequency. It's showing you a visual description of an actual frequency, and this frequency is resonating at a specific tone, and then this tone is on top of this heavy, I'm presuming it's probably heavy because it looks like a stone table, okay? So he's got the field amplifier, he's on a device, he's got his frequency coming out of this arm directly humans, and they're humans because they're very small compared to his size. He's towering over them and he's seated. Now these humans, one's got his arm on the actual stone table, and he's lifting it with one arm. One arm, he's lifting the stone table. You can see it's up in an angle. And then behind him, you have two men whistling. And Edward Leedskalnin, when you go there on the tour in Miami at the Coral Castle, they talk about how he was always whistling. He could be heard whistling. He obviously took these. His story, real quick, is that he took these gigantic blocks of coral, I mean supermassive megalithic coral blocks, and he built this entire castle down there in Miami all by himself. And the guy was only like 5'1", and he might have weighed 140 pounds. But he was a brick mason from Russia who tapped into the technology from the ancient Egyptians. Okay, so the whistling has something to do with canceling frequencies and reversing the magnetic polarity and allowing those blocks to be lifted into place with very, very little assistance and then set into place. So this was a phenomenal technology, and this cylinder seal is post after the flood. And if you find that after the flood, the Anunnaki had come to a point where they decided that a lot of them were going to be leaving this planet, even before the Pyramid War. And they started giving kingship to actual half human, half Anunnaki bloodlines, because they were going to basically allow, there were so many humans on this planet, they were going to allow humans to kind of really almost run themselves to a certain extent. So this Anunnaki god is teaching, like, these three men are probably most likely high-ranking people in society. And we know this because when you go to Egypt, you find that there's three languages in Egypt. One is the hieroglyphs, which were only known by the gods themselves. Then you had the political text, which was only known by the politicians or the higher-ups in society. Then you had the third level, which was just basic Arabic, which was for the working people. And nobody was allowed to learn any of the, obviously the politicians knew below them, and of course Anunnaki knew everything below them. But from the bottom up, you couldn't, like the politicians couldn't learn the secret glyphs. They couldn't learn those. So they come to a point here where these three people obviously have to be high-ranking people in society for them to even get this knowledge in the first place on how to create anti-gravity. And, you know, sometimes people go on some of my posts that I make and they go, oh, you know, you got it wrong. People built these pyramids. Well, not necessarily. People built some pyramids, yes, that's a fact. But they got the knowledge and information and the architecture, the plans from other people that came here first and taught them.
Can we say that people assisted in building the pyramid?
Yeah, definitely assisted. Yeah. And this is one thing that's very clear in the text, is that the Anunnaki always had people, you know, kind of following their plans or working for them, you know, obviously slave labor. They would lay out a design plan and put these people to work. Initially, it was them doing all the work until obviously the rebellion happened, and then they created, I hate to say the word that they created humans. I like to use the term that they genetically modified the existing hominids on this planet. It sounds longer, but it's better. Creating means you just creating something. People still need to understand that they were already here. There were already beings or entities here, sentient beings here, before the Anunnaki got here. Not a lot of them, but we were here, and then the Anunnaki just sped up process by mixing their DNA with ours. It's a very complicated process because they failed quite a few times trying to make it happen, but eventually they were able to successfully mix. They had a couple of nightmares. They created people that couldn't reproduce. They created half human, half animal hybrids. Those didn't work out. And eventually they got to where they said, okay, let's just do it this way. And they actually took a female Anunnaki, took the egg out, cleared all the genetic egg, making it into a zygote, putting the Anunnaki genetic information in, and then actually planting it into Isis. She gave birth to the actual first, most advanced human. Not the first human, but the first most advanced human. Prior to that, they were using incubation chambers and all this other stuff. So that's another form of technology. But this technology is so incredible because if you read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, which predate the Sumerian tablets by 30,000 years, by 30,000, they talk about Thoth using the power of Earth's force to build a pyramid from the top down. Well, that's anti-gravity. You know, so this stuff goes back really far, you know.
From the top and down. That sounds, in my ears, it sounds very complicated to build a pyramid from the top and down. And I have to say to the listener out there, I'm sorry, but we have some Billy's sound is breaking up a little bit. I hope you all get what he says. Billy, go on. Building pyramids from the top and down. Can you explain? Because I'm curious.
Okay, yes. Didn't miss too much. So in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, which date back over 36,000 years, predate the Sumerian text by 30,000 years plus. Thoth himself, which Thoth is also Ningzida in the ancient Sumerian tablets, that's his other name. He's actually the son of Enki. He was commissioned to build the Great Pyramid at Giza. He built the Great Pyramid at Giza from the top down, according to his text. So that obviously tells you that there was definitely something in place in terms of anti-gravity technology from far, far deep antiquity. This is back when they called Egypt the land of Cam. And the pyramids were actually to celebrate their success over moving from the flood situation, the floodplains, to that new area and actually reestablishing civilization again. But there initially were monuments, and there's actually a cylinder steel depicting after one of the pyramid wars that they had won the war and depicting the two pyramids there. So these pyramids are not 4,000, not 5,000, not 6,000. These pyramids are, I don't even think they're 13,000.
Ancient.
Yeah, super ancient. I really do believe so. I really believe we're talking, man, these things are really old. I don't know, 20, 30,000 years, who knows? They're a lot older than people think. Yeah.
William, your thoughts on how they constructed the pyramids? What would that be?
Well, I have to agree with him, because in the ancient text it talks about the pyramids were built with the help of the gods, and that's a very important thing for people to look at. A lot of people think these stories are myths and everything, but this is their way of describing what actually happened in those times. And I look at these things as not stories, but actual fact, and on how things happen. They had to use an anti-gravity type force there. They didn't build these things around, and really look at the human force that it would take to do that. And it just did it in 20 years or something like this, in a time period? No, that isn't possible, even for right now, to make something that massive, as precise as everything was cut. So they had the help of the gods, and they used highly advanced technologies, just the structure of the inside halls. And now they found more secret rooms inside the pyramid, because of using sonic technology, sound technology. And they found some more rooms. So I can't wait. I want to see what they find in those rooms, Maybe a technology that Billy's talking about here is some of the ones we've all talked about, or maybe it's just some more ancient texts, stone text or a room of hieroglyphs that tell us more detail on what happened back then. But Khufu, when he came in, he even admitted he did not build the Great Pyramids. They built a smaller ones off to the side, like you were talking about, Billy, which is cool. But those pyramids on Giza are ancient. I believe well over 30,000 years old myself,
And it's the same thing we're hearing about the Bosnian pyramids that was carbon dated to be 25,000 years old, if I remember correct, which I think I do in this case here. 25,000 years old pyramids in the middle of Bosnia. Yeah.
Think about that. That's unbelievable. And now they're finding them everywhere. So when you pay attention to the text and everything, you see that they did spread out, make new cities, after the flood and before the flood. So we're going to find remnants maybe of these old ones at times, the deeper we dig and stuff. They're just finding tunnels and, stones and lava with screws in them. All the evidence is starting to come to the surface that there were very high technologies back then, capacitors, things that look like batteries, Look at the Egyptian culture, the Baghdad battery, as they call them. I believe if they had them in a full scale and full operation back then, we just found the small remnants of maybe like we use batteries for a flashlight, for something they may do electroplating. But they were lighting the interior of all these monuments, as they were saying, and, things from the interior with no problem, where they would not have been able to carve all the hieroglyphics and stuff in areas where you see no light whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've seen a picture of an ancient, I think it was an Egyptian person. Sorry, I can't remember if it was a pharaoh or if it was someone else, but sitting with something that actually looked like a laptop computer. I don't know if you can remember that picture. That looks like it has those two holes in the side and the USB stick. I'm not sure that I actually know what I am looking at when I'm looking at that picture. What do you, William, think that this picture is depicting to us?
I think just like on the Egyptian walls where they show a helicopter and what looks like a submarine or something, an aircraft, all they're doing is carving what they've seen. So I think that was obviously some type of machinery. It could be computer. Obviously it was something that had information because they're doing things with their fingers. You know, I know exactly the one you're talking about. I really believe that all these hieroglyphs and these ancient writings they're describing, and we get to see, especially with the hieroglyphs and pictoglyphs and this nature, the actual technologies that they witnessed themselves. We degraded technology to a certain point. Now we're coming back up. And the reason we know that is because now we have, like you said, the laptops and things of this nature. I think they're representatives of some of the technologies we have right now, today. And we can recognize them because of that.
A quick question related to that is, you just mentioned the helicopter. I remember the helicopter on the hieroglyphs. But if we have anti-gravity, if we have flying craft that worked with anti-gravity, why would we have something like a helicopter depicted? Was someone traveling back in time, or was someone disappearing from David's Triangle, Bermuda Triangle, and reappearing somewhere else in the ancient time? Is that what we are looking at?
I think that is a high possibility what we're looking at myself, but you know, they had to have technologies maybe that we didn't know about, that they just carved them there. That's what the Egyptians mean, you know, so I'm not sure on that. But personally, I do believe in time travel capability, and it's a high possibility that they could have went on into the demise of mankind and then came out on the other side and seen what the technology we have now and put them up there. Not totally sure on that, but they've obviously seen those craft and understand what they were. They wouldn't put them there.
What's your thoughts on that, Billy?
Yeah, I went to the Temple of Abydos where those glyphs are actually located, up in the ceiling. If you go on my Facebook page, you can see that me standing up, pointing up. I was like, it was the highlight of my trip, because one of the main reasons why I went there was to go to the Great Pyramid and also to go to the Temple of Abydos. I did a lot more, but those were the two highlights. Seeing that with my own eyes and not just on Google is a whole other experience. You get an appreciation for how large that piece is. I mean, it's huge. It's about maybe 20 meters up in the ceiling, okay? And I would have to say that it's probably, about 4 feet by maybe, just that one section, 4 feet by maybe almost 5 feet. That's how big it is. So it's not like a little tiny piece.
That's a big.
You can see it very easily from so far away from the ground. And the technology that's there, it's very possible that there could be some time travel, possibility where they went and came back and seen things. Also, it could be just like we have here. We have levels of technology here on Earth right now, currently in our current time. Okay, we have super high tech. If you know about Michael Schratt, he's a big-time researcher and investigator. He's an historian of aircraft. He came forward and disclosed that they have a craft that can actually travel from Earth to Mars and leave from Earth in the morning and travel to Mars and be back by lunch. Okay.
Oh yes.
This is Michael Schratt. This technology actually really does exist. If you look back at the Iraq War, okay, the stealth fighters that we used in 2000, those things were available and done and ready to go and start doing missions, 20 years prior to that. What happens is, you have a situation where it's like a tool. You pull certain tools out of your tool chest, Now, why would you need a helicopter if you are moving certain statues and things around into place, and you just came from another planet? You're limited with what you can bring to this planet. This is why they use stone technology, because stones last forever, so they build stone machines. Because you can't fly to a planet, build a factory, hire people to put in the factory, train them to work there and work this factory. You got to kind of utilize what's there already. So if you're in limited space, limited time, you get there, you can actually build certain things there. You bring some technology that's highly advanced that you have capability of accessing, and you have some other things that you give the next level of worker, the Ijiji or whoever they are, to utilize. So I think we have different levels of technology. You know, no matter where you go in this universe, you're going to see people using different levels. And I think that they definitely had these specific levels, and then they had the super high level. Why? Remember, one of the texts, Enlil built something called the Duran key. And the Duran key was also known as the bond heaven and earth. And it was so that he could step through this gate here at the control tower and end up on Nibiru instantly, okay? And then he could come back to Nibiru and back to Earth just like that. So he was walking through this Stargate down back then called the Duran key. And only the elite, it said in it, only the elite of the elite access to it. So you can see there's levels of technology and levels of within the technology that people have, can utilize. And I think that these pieces of tech most likely existed because they can depict. They know what a sheep looks like. They know what a building looks like. They know what a staff looks like. So I'm pretty sure they know what they drew up there, what they etched into that stone was really what was there. And I think that it might have been utilized at a certain level of higher within their had access to that technology.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. They definitely seen these craft, and that's why they carved them, and so they could have been there being used, or they did the portal and jumped into the future, could see what was going on there, and it was just, I don't know the rest of the hieroglyphs, I can't read that, but, the rest of the story would be really nice to get on what they say those things are.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
What do you guys think the next step will be when we are talking ancient technology? What do you think that we will see next as revealed as ancient technology that we already have reinvented today? Do you have any ideas of ancient technology that we have reinvented today and use for private use, public use, commercial use?
Yeah, one of them that I think it's going to come to the forefront very soon is transporter technology. And I mean by that, it's just like on Star Trek, beam me up, Scotty. So basically,
talking about teleportation.
Yeah, transportation. Not transportation. I'm talking about dematerialization. Okay. Dematerialization, where you actually dematerialize something and then it rematerializes in another location. This is technology that I believe is an ancient technology. I believe that these gods used to use this technology, the elite, the top ones, to move around the planet. Instead of hopping on a boat, taking a month to go from Egypt to America, I think that at certain times to check on their other kingdoms, they would use the transporter technology, kind of like I say, beam me up, Scotty, where you can teleport. Now, in Russia, they teleported, this was about maybe 7 years ago, they teleported a couple of atoms, just a couple of feet. Then in America last year, I believe it was last year, I think at Harvard University, they were able to teleport a couple of atoms a few miles. Now they are able to transport multiple molecules. So you see the advancement. It started off, I believe, as photons, then atoms. Well, photons, it was one photon, then multiple photons, now molecules. So it's more and more complex. And this is where you can see, are you using me, Thomas?
I was just about to say, here comes my conspiracy theory, because what you just said was, this is what we in public has been shown that they have they have reached in public, but what happened behind the scene? Because if you listen to Andrew DiBasiago or some of all the others that has stepped forward and telling their stories of what they have been experiencing throughout their life, this technology has been here since the 50s, the 60s, and it has been used. And I just saw a video on Gaia, I think you know which one I'm talking about, Billy, where they are showing a rocket in the 1960s and a rocket in 2016, and then they are showing something else from the 60s and something else from 2016, and everything has developed. It's become more technological advanced, except for the rocket.
Okay.
We are still using the same officially, but the three of us all know that we are not using the traditional rocket. Yes, we are in public, but behind the scenes, we are using our technology. It has been doing it since the 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and still doing it. So what you're saying here, Bill, it sounds like what I call my conspiracy theories. That goes on that we are only being told that we have reached this far in the field of teleportation, but I do believe that we have it here already now, and we have had it for a long time. But some people, and I think that we are talking about people investing in oil, in fossil fuels, are doing what they can to keep their money going in, and if we are having teleportation, dematerializing, and so on, and then they will lose the game in the end, and they won't make their daily billions of dollars.
Right.
Here we go. You figure the rest out there. Yep. Sorry, I interrupted you, Billy. Go on.
No, that's right. You're right. You know, everything that they show us, if they finally show us something, then it's already. You know, they used to be where they were 50 years ahead of us. Now they're more like 300 or 400 years ahead of us. Yes. And this is true reality. And I think they're going to meet Major Ed James 2 months ago in Orlando, Florida. And we had an open session, and we were just sitting there talking about how far advanced the government is right now on certain technologies and black budget stuff. And he said between 300 and 500 years ahead of what we have in the general public right now. That's incredible.
That's right. 100%, 100%. And that's what goes to exactly what you were talking about earlier, Billy, is the fact that the different levels of civilization, just like the Anunnaki would keep the hieroglyphs for them and in the different language aspects, they do the same exact thing with humanity and technologies, because these ancient ones are still here dealing with things behind the scene, like behind the curtain of Oz. And unfortunately, that's why the world and society is in the situation it is now. If they would release those technologies, oh my goodness, the things we could, all my questions and your questions and yours would all be answered, and life would be much better. But if we had those technologies, would we destroy ourselves? So we have to wonder if some of these things are being held back so we won't kill ourselves, If we have some of the advanced weaponry technology, we don't want the wrong people getting hold of that stuff.
Yeah.
I would like to this is maybe a little bit off topic, but again, within the topic, we are talking about weapons, wars, and military. Take a look at Iceland. Iceland has no army. They have jailed the corrupt bankers. Yep. Look how Iceland is a flowering island country. I think that we should all learn from what they are doing in Iceland. They are working to be 100% self-supported with alternative energy, and they are going for that. Look at Iceland out there. Hello world, take a look around.
They have the capability of doing that because they made their mind up, and I've talked about this in other radio shows and stuff. Everybody made their mind up to, this is what we're going to do. And they had the people in power that wanted to follow with what the people wanted, and they did it. They made that step forward, and that's taken a step forward in civilization. Like you said, no army. Imagine that. That would be great. Everybody working together.
Billions we are spending every single day in keeping our armies alive, running, supported with artillery, weapons, guns, whatever you need. Supplies.
Waste of our time.
But again,
really
we are talking about billions of dollars every day that goes right in the pockets of the politicians, right in the pockets of those who owns the oil companies. so on, so on, and I can keep on on saying names.
Well,
we know those that makes the money are those that are actually ruling the politicians, and the politicians are supposed to listen to the people, and sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. What a world!
I think what we need. What Billy was talking about in the last show, we were talking to not the anti-gravity, fusion, 0-point energy. Once all of a sudden we have a free energy source, and that's why they try to suppress us so much. Freedom, right then and there. You're not hooked to these big corporations and stuff anymore. Decentralized systems happen at that point. So all of a sudden that power structure that's there starts crumbling down. The oil industries, all the industries is tied to the petrodollar and stuff. That's another show, but yeah, that's the power structure, and it has to stop, or mankind is going to be kept in this loop that it has been for generations, and eventually we're just going to destroy ourselves. It's foundations and people like us and doing what Billy's doing, bringing these new technologies to the forefront. These ancient technologies, which is interesting. They had these technologies, and now we have them again, and bring them to the forefront. So regular society, not that breakaway civilization, has them. We have to catch up to a point because they're not going to help us.
Exactly.
Really have to catch up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We are almost out of time here. We got 10 minutes left. So one of you that want to bring out a specific topic related to ancient history, because I know both of you have miles of information that I would love to hear all of it, but that would take several months to hear it all. Is William, do you have something you want to bring up today regarding ancient technology?
I think the one thing about ancient technology is we need to turn around and really bring all these technologies up. We know what they are. We have to develop it, throw the roadblocks out of the way, all the things that hamper the development of these technologies that we're reinventing, and I think the main thing we have to learn about technology, I'll say, is to use this power with discretion. Because even the ancients, nuclear war, on Nibiru, here on the planet, stuff like this, we seem to be caught in this loop. We have to take these technologies and take them a step higher and get away from the religions, the politics, the dogmas, all the things that hold us in these loops. I think that's about the best thing I can say is transportation right now would be the best that power for everybody to get into alternative aspects of it so we don't destroy what we're living in. You destroy the environment, you're not living anymore. That's it, period.
Yes. Billy, do you want to put in a last word?
It's a good thing what William just said too about the transportation being key by finding alternative transportation using different types of energy sources. As you know, I talked to you a little earlier today, Tom, so I sent you a message earlier that finally I was officially accepted by the European Space Agency. My space agency.
Congratulations with that, Billy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Go to the European Space Agency website and you can actually search for my company, and I'm on that list. So, first class space agency, start making some history. It took a very long time. We're talking about a year in the waiting here to get the attorneys to get it, to have people like, oh, this guy doesn't have a real space agency. No, yes, I do. Yeah, you can look it up. I'm excited because now I can start moving forward with getting some of the other parts going. Like I want to do a DIY forum where I'm going to have vetted engineers that I take through a very strict process, get in there and begin to actually start throwing the ideas in to begin some of the blueprints for developing some of these 0-point energy devices. And
there you go.
Yeah, man, we're going to look at multiple different types of devices and things that we can use to free this world, to help free this world. It's what the goal is. That's the goal. I mean, and that includes transportation, that includes powering your homes, that includes so many different things. Bringing energy to third world nations. So that's what we're trying to do, man. So I'm really excited about it.
It's really interesting. If we have decentralized power and every home makes its own power, oh wow, you can't. you can't stop. You know, that's positive growth all the way around. You don't have to worry about a central grid system. It's a waste of money. It really is. You know, and you take the power, coal power plants, atomic power plants out of the picture. That's a blessing in disguise right there.
We were talking about the Bloomberg box last time and the energy harvested from that, and though it wasn't in episode 1 because we had to cut 1.5 hours down to 45 minutes, then it was really interesting. So I will show you the short video after this conversation is ended with the Bloomberg box and the inventor that invented it. That was amazing how they could reverse the process and get energy out of it instead of oxygen. And
yeah. Amazing.
Truly. Yeah. Thank you.
That started off as a NASA contract.
What? Sorry, say once again.
The inventor kind of started the way that I'm moving. He started off as a NASA contractor.
Yeah.
To develop space technologies, and then it ended up becoming the Bloombox, which is a power generating free energy source.
Bloombox.
That's amazing.
I think I said Bloomberg. Bloombox. Yeah, that's the correct word.
Correct.
That's great. That's another a topic for another Skype session, another good time. But for now, we have been speaking for more than 40 minutes. So I would say thank you to Billy and thank you to William for being here today. And we will be back with more awesome stories, experiences about ancient technologies, UFOs, Anunnaki, ancient history, and what I like the most, ancient technology. For all of you out there, until we see again, take care. Bye.